So anyway, if you're pandemicking at home tonight on this beautiful, wonderful Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday at 9:28 p.m., which is when we're broadcasting. You're not supposed to give out times; they're called timestamps. Not supposed to do that in the biz. But we do it anyway, and we've got lots to talk about, and it has been a fucking long time coming too. So I'm really excited. Please welcome my friend from blackballmedia.ca. It's in the title of the website, blackballed and blacklisted from media because he makes too much fucking sense, which is why I love the guy, Mr. James DiFiore. Sir, how are you? Nice to see you. A little golf
Hey,
clap in
Dean.
the evening. How are you?
Oh, thank you very much.
How are you, kid?
How you doing, Dean?
What are you
I'm doing
drinking?
all right.
What are you drinking tonight? Let's do that around the table first. What do you got in your
I
hand?
am drinking Corona.
Let's see it. What do you got? James DiFiore, little evening Corona. There we go. Oh, that looks good. Yes. Oh, you pour it in the glass? You poured from a glass into a glass? That's the dumbest shit ever.
You know why? This is the same glass I used to drink copious amounts of red wine with for years and years and years. And I'm just used to the glass.
Right.
And now I only drink Corona because otherwise I'll be an idiot who does cocaine and says things he regrets. So now I just have beer and I don't do any of those things.
What how do you go from red wine instantly into cocaine? Is that like a trigger, or is it just like,
I think red wine is the
gateway drug?
The happy little creek towards Cocaine Valley. That's what I think.
I've never ever heard someone say that in my life. And,
I've been to like
100 like addiction meetings in my life.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
Let me clarify.
Right.
So, over the last 6 years, the only time I've ever done those things is when I've never told anyone, and I will continue to live in that lifestyle. No, I haven't done it. Yeah, I haven't done it in a long time. But I've switched to psychedelics.
Good.
So.
Have you really? You're full on psychedelics now? Like
weed,
because I think
Corona and mushrooms and LSD will be the only things I think I will touch for the rest of my life, except for maybe offshoots like hash and things like that, and maybe peyote or something. But
yeah, what's peyote an offshoot of? Is that an offshoot of the fungus?
It's just a psychedelic. I don't know.
Is it from a root? Is it a root?
It's from a cactus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, yeah.
I often wonder who the first people were that discovered those things. And how they
very
did.
Fortunate people.
Like the first time some guy grabbed a handful of shrooms and just went, fuck, here we go. It's fungus.
That's probably how God was invented. Think about it. Right?
Yeah. I saw God last
burning
night.
Bush.
Do you do mushrooms? Tell me about your drug regimen. And I don't mean that because I know you're not a drug addict. You use it medicinally, and I love that about you. And for fun.
Well, I also go to outer space with it too, but because I think it's important to escape yourself sometimes.
Right.
Not in like a way that damages you. Like I've been down the road of harder narcotics back in the day, and
have you done all the drugs?
I think so, pretty much. I've never done needles. I'm sure I've done heroin before because I've taken a copious amount of ecstasy in the early 2000s. So there must have been heroin in there somewhere.
Let's go through a list. Let's go through the list. Have you? I'm getting feedback here, Sean. Can you somehow can something? Have you smoked heroin knowingly, willingly?
Not knowingly, but I have a funny story about that though.
Okay.
Is angel dust heroin?
My understanding of it is yes, absolutely it is.
Is it mescaline? I don't know what it is. But when the week after I moved to LA, I went to this friend of mine was a promoter, and I went to this party, and it was on a rooftop of something, and I was waiting at the elevator, and there was a guy beside me. It's just like one of those like typical kind of like millennial douchebaggy guys who was like, "Hey man, you know who that is? You know what? This is 2009, by the way." And he keeps on nudging me with his elbow, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is." He's like, "What do you mean you don't know who that is?" And he says his name, and I forget his name right now, but I'll remember by the end of the story. And I was just like, "Okay, well, I don't know who he is." And the guy that he was talking about walks over because he heard and invites me onto the elevator and calls that guy a douchebag. So now I'm sitting in the elevator with this guy and his entourage. Yeah. I hope I remember his name because I still forget his name. And we go up, and then we just I tell him I'm from Canada. He's like, by the time we get to the top, it's small talk. It's like 30 seconds. And he's like, "All right, Canada, take care." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So I meet my friend, I sit down. This guy passes me a blunt, and I start smoking it. I swear to God, I took like 3 hauls of whatever the fuck this kryptonite bullshit was, and I was just like sitting there, this Canadian with this pasty fucking mouth in the middle of an LA rooftop party, and I'm like, oh my God, right? Like, I got to get the fuck out of here, right? So I go to my friend, I lean into him, and I'm like, I don't know what I just smoked, and he's just like, I don't know either. Why are you telling me this? And I'm like, like, and I left, and I went down a staircase, and there was a security guard, and I'm like, do you know where the exit is? And he's like, keep going down.
Yeah.
And I went down. It's all identical. And it was like 4 floors, but it was all like a big.
That's what stairs are. Like if there's lots of stairs in a row, they're all the same.
But each security guard was a big black guy sitting down in a chair.
Yeah.
So each time I went downstairs, and he was the same build and everything, and I was just like, am I fucking like trapped in something? Like, what am I in Niagara Falls and I wandered into Ripley's? Like, what's going on?
I'm in a house of mirrors.
Yeah,
house of
the haunted
mirrors.
House or whatever it was.
Yeah. The wacky house of mirrors.
So finally I get to the bottom, and I literally fall out of this establishment and just start throwing up. And I stop, and like all I hear is, "Hey, Canada." And I look up, and through my blurry, teary vision, I see this guy from the beginning of the night. And he's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like I can carry my own weight smoking weed, but I think something might have been in this because I feel really fucked up. Like I took opium and I don't know it or something." And he's like, "Where are you staying?" And I gave him my address, and he gives me $100 bill, and he walks me to a cab, and he takes the 100 from my hand and gives it to the cab driver, and he's like, "Take this motherfucker to this goddamn address and give him the goddamn change." I looked at him like, "Thanks, man." And it was the UFC fighter with the mohawk from like the early 2000s.
Oh, that narrows it down.
No, it does. It really does. If you know UFC stuff.
UFC guy in the early 2000s with a mohawk.
Yeah, if you Google that right now, it will come up immediately, and you'll be like, yeah, that guy.
Nationality?
White guy. I don't know. American, I guess.
Here's a question: Are we allowed to ask people's nationalities when we're trying to explain? Like, are we allowed to include nationalities when we're trying to explain it in a group of people? You know what I mean?
Only if they're white.
Well, that's the thing, because I was thinking about this after I was trying to point out someone in a crowd that I was referring to. I don't know, not really a crowd, a group of people a few weeks ago. And it was the only black person in the crowd. And I was referring to them as, oh, you know, that person has these tickets that we need to do X. Like that person has what you're looking for. Someone said, "Hey, have you seen these tickets?" I'm like, "Yeah, that guy has the tickets." And they said, "Which one?" And there's like 7 or 8 people, you know, half of them with glasses. They're all wearing, you know, darker coats.
Wearing Argyle sweaters.
Yeah, they're all wearing darker coats. And I'm like,
they all
and
have
I start
subcontractors with ad companies.
No, I start to sweat. Like, oh my God. The one guy I'm trying to tell her to go see is the black guy. Am I allowed to say it's the black guy? Like that was my big heater in that moment, because I'm so fucked up by where we are. I thought, it's the, and I froze, and I go, come with me. That's how much of a fucking pussy I became over this whole thing. And I'm like, come with me. So maybe I need to start doing some psilocybin or mescaline or whatever it was that you did.
Well, maybe it's I can tell like a Somalian from a Jamaican. So maybe you need to start narrowing it down a little bit more. Like maybe you need, because if you take a crack
but you don't.
at it,
but there was no, like, listen, there was one black person and there were like 6 white people. And the easiest, most expeditious way for me to give this person an answer would have been just to say, it's the black gentleman.
That would have been, dude. Black gentleman seems a little bit overkill.
Like I'm trying really way too hard not to be racist.
And black man seems a little too rigid, but black dude seems like the right way to go.
And black guy, I don't want to say black guy.
No, because that just screams racism in a way.
Yeah, I guess.
It sort of does.
Black
guy, what the fuck, man? Who? Black guy over there. Fuck. No, fucking black guy. Yeah, you don't want that.
I got in a car accident once on the DVP. I hit some black ice and I hit the guardrail and the cops came.
I thought you were going to say, I thought you just said I hit some black ice.
No. Like, I hit some black ice and the cops came and they're like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I hit some black ice." And he made the most racist fucking joke I've ever in my life.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God, I just made the same joke. I
yeah,
think.
yeah. No, I know. No, you were thinking that I was going to be joking, but I wasn't. But this
Right,
guy
right.
said,
Okay.
anyway, the racism is a fucking tough one and it's not had nothing to do with me being white. I could give a fuck about my color. I'm just saying, as a human being trying to navigate the world and trying to figure out how you're supposed to couch stuff, what you're supposed to say, how you can't say it, and just for a matter of communication, I find that we can't do it anymore.
Well, actually, you just said something that is almost like a trigger in the whole social justice realm, which is I don't
Awesome.
remember. I'll paraphrase, I think, because I don't remember the exact quote of what you just said, but it was something like, "I don't think about my color." What did you say? Something like, "I
No,
don't," you know.
my perspective, what I was trying to communicate was my perspective on me pointing out somebody in a crowd would have nothing to do with their color. Like it would just has to. It's an identifier to me, right? As it is with, like, if there was 5 guys in a group and someone says I need to talk to so and so, and it was the only guy with the glasses, I would say the guy with the glasses, right?
Well,
Or the guy with the
if it
black
was, or
shirt.
if it was one white guy and 5 black guys, you would say the white guy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I would,
Yeah.
but for some reason, I'm scared to fucking death of saying, the black guy, and it's a weird time to be in, and I think it's a good thing that we're, obviously standing up for racism. But one of the things that I notice about you is the common sense that you insert into, which is why I wanted to fucking talk to you today. The common sense you insert into arguments. This last week we had a fucking big old brouhaha.
Um,
With a woman who faked gender discrimination. And I simply asked the question, is it okay to do that if you're a female? And everybody called me sexist. And it was amazing watching you explain the position that people can be in to actually have a conversation about that, and not everything is sexist. But it also, equally amazing how fucking incredibly stupid a whole bunch of people with really big blue fucking check marks on their accounts are, and why they do that. And I
yeah.
loved watching it, because I see hatred in binary now, James. It's a fact. I just see it in, like, code. Oh, I'm going to use that. I'll use that. I don't. So I just love it as a study, as a science. I think it's fucked up, but where we are socially is like the biggest mind fuck for me right now.
Well,
Thus, I have a hard time pointing people out in the park.
no, I totally agree. We'll get to the if you want the specific thing that caused all that for a second, but just like on what you just said, maybe I won't name him yet, because I'm doing like a one-on-one with him tomorrow, but it's just a one-on-one. Like, it's not even a podcast. Because we're just, we had this situation happen online. So he's a really, really, really well-known progressive in a very specified type of, like, progressive issue, which is electoral reform.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Fuck it. His name's Dave Meslin. And for all intents and purposes, Dave Meslin seems like a very nice person. Like, I don't know if you remember, like, 2 elections ago where, and maybe even last election, where there was a guy on CBC Politics that was using Lego to sort of, like, explain the difference between the vote count and the first past the post system,
Mm-hmm.
and the vote count if you utilize a proportional representation system. And it was like all these, like, Lego graphs or whatever. Anyways, that was Dave Meslin, right? And, like, I think he was responsible for bike lanes in Toronto. Like, he sort of has an issue or two, and he seems really nice. Like, I've met him once or twice. I've talked to him here and there, like, in the digital realm. But all of his followers are, they all have that undercurrent, that culty undercurrent, where it's like, if you say this means that. And, it doesn't matter if you're familiar with the rules, where this means that is like, that's, if they hear that, they get into lecture mode, and they're so sure of themselves, and the way that they say, maybe you need to, like, educate yourself on this and that. And, like, I thought that trend was going to die when it first came out, like, 10 years ago, but it's more popular than ever now, because it's become mainstream in a sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Dave, I hope I'm not talking out of class, but whatever, sort of. I asked him.
Is that him?
Yes.
I mean, that's him. That's him drawn really well in pencil. But
yeah,
that's who we're talking.
So, but I asked him if he if he real like I basically told him like, look, you're too smart not to see that many people that follow your work are completely batshit. Like, tell me that you see this. So like, because it's really hard to get a
What's he all
really
about? What's he all about? What's his MO? I don't understand.
well, he's just typical sort of like I don't know what you mean. Like, I mean,
Is he a right fighter? Is he like a community organizer? Is he what is he? What
I would
I
say,
because I don't know anything about the guy.
I would say he's more of a community organizer, but he's like really smart. So he does research and he like builds cases for the issues that he represents, right?
Which
Like
are what? What does he represent?
well, he represents electoral reform, and he represents non-combustible transportation, so like things like bikes. So he was instrumental in getting bike lanes in Toronto, for example, and then he's been I would say at the forefront of like proportional representation in Canada as being like his main issue, and like the face of that issue would be him, basically.
Sounds like he'd be absolutely zero fucking fun to hang out with. I'll tell you that.
Well, who knows,
No, like if what turns him on is bikes and electoral reform.
Well,
that's
still,
boring.
I like electoral reform. I think that's actually really interesting. But I'm boring as fuck. I live in the sticks. But anyways, this guy, basically tacitly admitted that he knows that a lot of people that follow his work are, pretty batshit or have that undercurrent of culty kind of behavior.
What do they?
The way that they speak.
What do they do? Explain some of the?
It's just the typical. It's mostly identity politics people and the typical dialogue that they try to engage you with, where it's like, earlier today it happened again. He's like an Indian filmmaker from India, and
East Asian.
No, he's Indian, whatever, right? Like he's from India. And fuck off. And he posted something. It was actually just a screenshot of somebody else's tweet. And the tweet was basically, I'll say one quote, is that white men never created great art or never produced great art. They just, and then I'm paraphrasing the rest of it, which was, they just said it was great art because they were selling it to themselves. And I was just like, what? I was like, two things. One, every single culture, their audience is the same culture almost every single time. I challenge anyone to name any culture where their primary audience is a completely different culture. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Of course, that's just what it is, right? Like, culture is culture. And anyways, and so this, so the way that, I lost my train of thought because I started going on my own.
Dave Meslin?
Yeah.
Neckbeard? Something about his neckbeard?
No, it had nothing to do with his neckbeard. Now you sent me off again, right?
Sorry, dude.
No, it's okay.
Have a drink. Well, listen, because this is the gist of it. This is the gist of it to me.
Right.
What we're getting at in solving the world's problems this evening is James has a drink of his delicious beverage.
It was the weed. Come on, we both know it was the weed. But
sorry,
but if you remind me what I said. I had a good point.
Go ahead.
It was a good point. I just lost. No, but if you remind me what I was talking about at that moment that I stopped talking.
Do you want me to? Is that what you want me to do now in the middle of the podcast?
No, I want you to remember. If I don't remember, I'm
sit and
burnout. If you don't remember, what are you? A guy that's not a very good host, apparently.
No, I'm a great host. I just can't reach your mind. Awesome host. I can't reach your mind, DiFiore.
No, but what was I saying up to it? Because then I'll hear the keyword.
I was asking you what some of the outrage topics were that this cat, and his because everything you've said to me about Dave Meslin to me sounds like he's boring as fuck, and all of his followers are boring as fuck, and everything that they stand for, I don't. But continue.
Right. So you get it. So the typical social justice warrior, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, he tacitly admitted that he knows that a bulk of his followers are that. And so I naturally asked him, well, why don't you ever call them out on it then? Like, because those people, those personalities that have followers for their singular issues, once you add like 50 of them, that's a lot of people. And all of them are these enablers of this culty undercurrent. And it's just, and they know it.
Do you think the right fighting? Do you think
they're
the right
charlatans because they know it? I don't know if Dave Meslin is a charlatan. I shouldn't include him in this, but it would be easy to be a charlatan. How about that? Because all you would have to do is repeat all these keywords, be a little bit charismatic, find an issue or two to represent, and boom, you have yourself a little following because all of these people follow the same rule book. right? So
That's what Trump is, right? That's sort of what.
that's MAGA too, right?
Yeah,
MAGA is exactly like that.
Yeah, it's you give something a cool fucking name or a really neat saying, and you alliterate a little bit. You got yourself a fucking cult. It's like evangelical Christianity to me. Did you see Pat Roberts?
Yeah.
Did you see Pat Robertson today?
I joked about that. I said his conclusions seem almost plausible, but his methodology in getting there, maybe not so much, right?
Yeah. So Pat Robertson's an evangelical, born again Christian preacher. Now, I grew up in that cult, and I full on call it a cult. My parents,
evangelicals.
Yeah. I grew up in that horse shit, and it served a purpose for my family, and I get what religion is, but to me, all man-made religion is a cult. That's where I've arrived at this tender age of mine, right? So Pat Robertson is like the head of the OAN. He is the head of the Christian Broadcast Association. He is a fucking loser, and he's a guy that says God speaks to him and goes on TV and says, God told me to tell you people, if you did not give me $3 million, donate up to $3 million by the end of today, he's going to kill me. That's the kind of shit Pat Robertson's been saying for the past 50 years. He's a televangelist piece of shit. So anyway, evangelical Christian. He represents the worst part of humanity, which is what Trump has exploited and all that other shit, right? But here's the great part, is that he went on television today, Pat Robertson, and he said that God had once again spoken to him.
All right.
Once again spoken to him. And then and God told him that not only is Trump getting reelected, after that, it's the end times. End of the world's coming, baby. So you can suck it.
You know what? I made the same argument on your website, Dean.
What do you mean?
For what, 2 or 3 weeks there, I was writing like the end times little weekly update, and one of them was So what I'm saying is, Pat Robertson. If someone other than Pat Robertson, but someone like that you respected, was like, I think that Trump might get reelected. And you know what? I know it sounds outlandish, but it might usher in the end of the world because he's so fucked up. Like, you would say, plausible, I guess,
Here's the great part.
If you add one sentence to that and you go, God told me that if we reelect Trump, the end times would come. Like, all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't think so. But it's the same answer.
So let me explain. Because I am steeped in the born again Christian evangelical faith, and the evangelicals, if you're watching this, you are going to fucking hate me after this.
Good.
The book of Revelations is the last book of the Bible, which basically predicts the end times and, a bunch of angels coming down. I'll get to the good stuff. This is the real good stuff. This is what he's talking about. The end times, according to evangelical Christianity, is this certain period of time where all the evangelicals, all the people that said that magic prayer of repentance, God, come into my life, make me a brand new person, I submit myself to you, I am no more, you're the best, I'm the worst, that kind of stuff. If you didn't say that magic prayer, you're fucked. Because when the end times come, God sucks all those people up into heaven so they don't have to be part of Armageddon. Did you know that? Did you know how incredible Christianity is that way? Where they're like, listen, right before it gets gnarly, we'll take all you crazy fuckers and we'll bring you up into the clouds and we'll just watch it all happen. How does that sound? And here's the other great part of that is there's part of Revelation, and I can't remember the chapter, and yes, I know a fucking ton about the Bible, way too much. That's why I studied apologetics. Apologetics is the nature of you being able to defend your faith in all aspects, even in the face of science and fact. So I get this stuff and I love it. I love it because I can use it to beat them with it. But the great part is Gog and Magog are supposed to have this big fight, according to Revelation, according to end times. Now, the big fight is going to happen between two countries. Gog, which is somehow translated into China.
Wait, are you sure it's not dog?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not.
Sorry.
And then
that was really bad.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, they have that festival where they kill and eat dogs.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I know.
Kill and eat dogs.
I know some do. And then you've got Magog.
Then shit's alive.
Okay, relax. And then you got Magog. So Magog, somehow translated into evangelical, no word of a lie, is supposed to be Russia.
Wouldn't it be May China?
So that's what one would think, right? Like there's Gog, Magog. One is like China, one is Russia, according to every deified piece of garbage in the evangelical religion that believes all of this craziness is going to happen. So
that's like Mormon
Christians
crazy.
Are getting, dude, I'm telling you, and I was forced to believe this shit.
I'm so sorry.
And it bugged me out for years. I'm still dealing with it. It's the best. But
I was only raised Catholic.
Oh yeah, no, so. That's. I wish I was raised Catholic.
Why? It's the cannibal vampire sect of Christianity.
No, I wished I was raised Catholic. That's what I want.
You eat his body and drink his blood.
So I wanted to settle everybody down. So I wrote this in a quick post. I'm like, everybody relax. End times aren't coming. Evangelicals are crazy fuckers like this guy is. Like every single evangelicals are like the terrorists of Christians. They just are the same way you have terrorists that misrepresent the beautiful Muslim faith. In essence, same thing with Buddhists. Same thing with the. No, I'm telling you.
No, I'm laughing at the way that I could tell that you felt like you had to stick the word "beautiful" in.
Like the black gentleman.
The word "beautiful"
like the black
cops
gentleman
come to my door. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Dean, it's not that bad. You can just say like Muslims.
And the beautiful Islam, and the beautiful Islam religion,
the wonderful
and the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him.
I don't know a whole bunch about Muslims.
And Jews and
no, I don't know a whole bunch about the Muslim faith, but I can tell you this: all man-made religion is the same. I hate them all equally for the same reason.
Well, it's the only thing that's different about it now is that every like Stone Age religion had their shot to be like the worst religion on the planet. Like, the Jews were for a while because they enslaved other people too way back in the day, but they were also enslaved, right? So they were enslaved. And then Christians and, wasn't the Ottoman Empire Muslim, right? So they must have been fucking awful, right? So, all of these empires were all these different religions.
Let's not forget, you're glossing over the Crusades. You're glossing over the Crusades.
Don't step on the conclusion.
Sorry,
don't step on the conclusion.
Sorry.
And then right now, there is one religion that clearly is more violent, but you're not allowed to say that either. So all the things that make sense that are part of like the data set of things that happen, you're not allowed to say anymore. You're not allowed to point out the data because I guess the motivation to point out the data is racist and discriminatory and bigoted. And so
you get
that's why we're becoming dumber. That's why we're becoming dumber, by the way. Because when it comes to certain facts, when you know that there's a data set out there that disproves it, or that there's factual evidence that everyone is just for some reason ignoring, it's okay to talk about those things. Like we can't even talk about how they think it's racist because then it's still giving them oxygen. It's just not anything other than data. And you should be able to talk about that,
You should be able to discuss numbers and data and fact. Is that what you're saying?
Of course.
It's fucking weird.
You don't have to have a motivation. Like, listen, I know that there's KKK members out there that often want to make the argument that even though black people represent 13% of the population in America, they still commit half the murders. Now, that data is true. But the KKK guy probably is motivated because he hates black people. While a person that's more rational is like, well, there's probably a disproportionate reason because socioeconomic and generational poverty and blah, 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 and all these really interesting, intelligent things to say. Where the KKK guy just wants to say the factoid and move on, as if that's
because it helps his narrative, right? And thus is my biggest boner for the last I don't know how long, which is fact. Give me facts.
Yeah.
I have cured anxiety in my life with fact, and I'm not kidding you. And that's because there's no
facts
room.
Cause my anxiety.
No, man, facts release you from your anxiety, and I'll explain to you why. What you've just described is a great scenario that everybody should be able to live in, and the world itself, Twitter itself, other social media platforms, news, chat rooms, are supposed to be this thing called a marketplace of ideas. A marketplace of ideas. Not hate, not misogyny, not sexism, not homophobia. Those things we can call out and see them for what they clearly are. However, when someone asks a question, like, is it okay for a woman to fake gender identity, or it's not gender identity, to fake gender discrimination, excuse me, on the basis and the merits of actually doing what that person is doing, the false accusation. Is it okay to do that? It's not okay to turn that into something it isn't. It's not okay to parse certain segments of certain comments and put them together to fit your narrative, which is what you're saying. Where the KKK person, like, listen, the left, or as they are called, the left. I hate using words like left or right because then you identify that you're on the other side of whatever it is you're shitting on. But again, every group has its terrorists, the left and the right, the extreme parts of both that are the douche nozzles that misrepresent both sides of everything. So, so getting back to my original point, which was in the marketplace of ideas, we should be allowed to discuss whether or not only whether or not we can salvage or learn from the mistakes that we've made, as whether you're talking about colonialism and white patriarchy, whether you're talking about racism, whether you're talking about gender equity. If we're not having these conversations about equity across the board in every capacity, whether it has something to do with men, women, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, if we're not talking about the merits of the things that we're actually supposed to be discussing, as opposed to the history of all the things that have gone into where we are, that's the part that I'm trying to navigate, and it's really fucking hard. And it's not hard from a personal perspective, because a lot of people now won't contribute to the conversation because they're scared. They're scared of the terrorists from both sides of the argument. And we're not allowed to have these conversations.
Well, I think,
or people are fearful of them.
Well, part of the reason might be because there's a perfectly rational argument against equity.
What do you mean?
Well, equity is not equality. It's not the same thing, right? So like, equality would be like equality of opportunity. Equity would be equality of outcome, right? Mm-hmm. And anyone that's familiar with like arguments, and I don't count myself as like a Jordan Peterson fan, but like that is a very classic Jordan Peterson thing to say, which is, equality of outcome is totally different. But he happens to be right about that. Like, if you have 13% of your population let's say 30% of your population in Toronto is like Chinese. Let's just say it is. I don't think it is, but let's just say it is. That doesn't mean that 30% of every company should be Chinese. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't take into account cultural differences between Chinese people and everyone else. It doesn't take into account, the Canadian lived experience, or other types of demographics and family demographics and like poverty levels and whatever else. Like, you can't just say every group is not only equal, but to prove that they're equal, everyone has identical accomplishments. If you just leave everyone alone to have rights, that doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't. And so when I hear equity, that's what I think of. I think of everyone thinks that the proportion of the population should be the proportion of wealth and all this stuff. And it's like, I don't understand a rational argument for that. When you get a new client, I don't get an erection even. I don't get nothing out of it. It doesn't do anything for me. I got two, but I certainly don't.
I got massive erections just looking at their ads, blue microphones, and Owner's Box Fantasy Sports. I got massive erection.
Well, that might be true, but you know what? The greater point is that it doesn't benefit the tribe. But the tribe only exists conceptually. Like, it doesn't. There is no like bank of white people or bank of black people or bank of Asians where it's like anytime an Asian does well, it's great for the group. It's like that doesn't even make any. That doesn't even start to make sense. It doesn't.
Some people would, but hold it. Okay, so let me ask you a question then. Are you saying when someone does something, it doesn't represent achievement for on behalf of the color of their skin or their nationality? Is that correct?
I mean, I think that applies to things like athletics, maybe the arts, things like that. But I don't think like, getting a promotion in biology, I don't know if we're celebrating those racial moments. I don't know. Like, it seems, I don't think the biologists would want to celebrate that racial moment. Honestly, I don't.
when you share these opinions, James DiFiore is our guest, by the way, deanblundell.com, blackballmedia.ca, tremendous political and common sense mind. I love having him on. The podcast brought to you by Blue Microphones, the greatest microphone on the planet, bar none. They've got a ton of them. Check them out. I use the Yeti X. You have to, too. It's affordable, too. Great compression. It's a USB mic. You got to do it. Owner's Box Fantasy Sports, which has turned me into a fantasy animal. I'm really good at it. Go there, log on, sign up, deposit 50. They'll give you 50. It's the greatest thing in the world. But you lead with your chin, James, and you share these opinions in a time where, which is what I find you fucking fascinating, that you share these opinions in a time where no one wants to share these opinions because they're afraid that they're going to get their DMs filled with "go fuck yourself" or "fuck you, you racist." Sean Sargent, Blue Mics, come get him. There you go. Go ahead.
Well, it has a it took years. I knew a guy, I still know him, I guess, but we were friends for a long time, like 15, 20 years or something. He had he was like probably a men's rights activist by the time I was like, okay, I gotta step away from this friendship. Like legit, just like it just made him really hot every time he talked about women. And it was like, like everything was their fault. And I was just like, okay, dude, like,
we can't be friends.
Yeah, we can't be friends. But one thing that he did say that made sense, and I'm reminded of Ricky Gervais when he was like, well, Hitler was also a vegetarian, so we agreed on that. So myself and this men's rights activist, one thing we agreed on was that I was pulling punches up until like 5 years ago or something, like where I would I would shy away from writing certain things or saying certain things, because even though the thrust behind whatever it was that I was saying was not like malice or racism or bigotry, it was data driven or something else, or maybe even sarcastic, whatever the fuck, right? But it was being like attacked, and he was like, you can't do that. If the longer you do that, the more that and then I've had different versions of what it's like to take the gloves off here and there, because to sustain that sort of vibe, like a certain style of like cutthroat, but also you want to like get into the nitty gritty of research and all that kind of stuff. It's really
because hold it, dude, because you can't be, that's the point, is you cannot maintain your perspective of equality across the board, equality of outcome, quality of opportunity. You can't maintain that perspective, without really doing some research. Like, you have to, if you're going to be fact-based, you have to know the facts. And I tell this to my kids all the time. We were talking about COVID the other day, and my kids came home, and one of the kids might have been around another kid that might have gotten it at his part-time job. And, moms got involved, and teachers and emails, and everybody's freaking out. And I said, everybody, just fucking stop for a second. Just come sit with me in front of the computer. I'm going to show you guys some facts so everybody can just chill the fuck out. No one's going to get tested for anything. No one's been around anybody. And as we went through the facts, just simply went through the facts, every single one of them calmed down. Every one of them. Because there's no room for argument outside fact. Alternative facts don't exist, in as much as, fucking other things that don't exist don't exist. Like I said, there are immutable facts on science, and you look at science, and I say, okay, I'll believe science.
Well, we live in a world where we don't know if that Biden hard drive story is real or not real, or exaggerated or not exaggerated. We don't know what
the one about Hunter Biden was child porn on a computer or something that was passed in between Russians, and no one seems to know where it is, and everybody says the story is real and everybody says the story is fake. That one?
That's part of it. Yeah, that's one of a half dozen that are just like that, right? Like that are all about the same thing, which is about that computer. But anyways, the point though is to your point, that there's a dispute on what the facts even are, and when you have that dispute, I don't know how do you sustain a society when you're polarized and each side can't even agree on what they're even arguing about. Right. That becomes kind of crazy.
You cannot get anywhere if both parties aren't based in reality. I've discovered late in life, you're not going to be able to have a normal conversation, which which I think everybody who takes offense to things on Twitter needs to remember, like, all the time.
Yeah.
That is not reality. This isn't Ready Player One. This isn't going to turn into Utopia. It is some fucking crackpot on the end of his couch just hammering his thumbs or her thumbs out of rage because they're miserable in their own life. And those are the kind of people that, and I thought about this week on my walk. I do these deep thinking walks. Thought about this on my walk this morning. I thought, there are a group of people who will argue because what they want to do is manipulate you. So those are the people that never include facts, I find. And the manipulative arguments are not arguments. That's just someone trying to either play to you and try to tell you that they're really fucking smart, or it's someone trying to convince you of something because it's in their benefit. None of those things are fact-based, and that's exactly what the fucking internet is now. That's what Twitter is. That's what social media is. It's people trying to manipulate reality and then taking the manipulation of reality to fit their narrative so that they can gain Twitter followers, slide into DMs, look like they're real woke, maybe get someone to click on some shit, which I get. I love that part of it. But we do it facetiously and on fucking purpose. Like, everybody knows that we do it. But my point is that the manipulation of the reality and fact has turned, and it's not like we can't come back from this place that everybody is in, where no one gives a shit about fact, everybody cares about clout. But I can tell you this, is that that's not, as I see the world now and watch people like you operate from a point of fact, I'm emboldened to be more fact-based all the time, and unapologetically so.
Wasn't that fucked up that you even have to say it?
Yeah.
Wow, what a risk, Dean. You're going to be fact-based. Jesus. Ooh. Right?
Hey, way to go, big guy. That was a really motivational speech.
But you're right. It is sort of revolutionary to be fact-based in an era where everything is like spun. And also it has an appeal to people, I think, because we all kind of know that everything is bullshit, or at least everything is embellished. Like, it doesn't hold water with a lot of us anymore. Yeah. And that's not going to go away, that vibe. And unfortunately, it's impacting independent journalists now too, though. You know who Tim Pool is?
No.
He used to be on Vice, or with Vice, and then I can't remember who after that, but fairly well-known independent journalist. But he's, I've noticed, and this is one of the reasons why my followers list doesn't grow on Twitter, is that if I seem to attract a lot of like Trump supporters, because anything that criticizes the left, or specifically the identity politics side of the left, will gain followers from the mega audience and traffic from the mega audience. That just happens, right? And I noticed, and I even did it tonight. I wanted to talk about it on the air actually with you, because I just wanted to see if the experiment worked.
What a coincidence.
Last I checked, it worked, which is that I tweeted a certain phrase. My tweet was Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party saying that they're focused on keeping Canadians safe, healthy, and supported through this global crisis. And I tweeted this on purpose, and I used certain keywords on purpose just to see what would happen. And what I said was, what he means is our Liberal government is focused on keeping Canadians in the dark, paranoid, and ushered into a new global order. And it's instead of getting 3 likes like I normally get, because I only have 3,000 followers, I have now 307 likes and 102 retweets, because I used the phrase fucking new global order. And so now right, so now I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Do I continue to nurture this audience, or what do I do now?
Well, hold it. This is the beautiful part of where we are. Is what I've done is I've harnessed that, like you have, and like I said, I see it in fucking binary. So the second I see stupidity, I like to hold it up and fucking put a magnifying glass in front of it so everybody can see who the person is and what I'm doing. It's the easiest way for you to be able to combat stupidity and combat people that really aren't fact-based, number one. Number two, They're all like fuck. All they are little piss missiles to me. Like these little things I get to use. These hateful little fucking piss missiles that I get to use and juggle around and show people to prove my points. Which is the great part about where we are, because in radio, if you did radio before, you couldn't do that. You couldn't. You had to sit and there's no fucking Googling, dude. I used to fucking turn records. I really, literally used to turn records. I don't have an answer for people as to how to battle it, other than that is that none of it is reality. You're these are people that
this is reality. Look at me. I'm walking around.
I know. Fucking. You going to the fridge, or what do you get? You getting
No,
something?
I'm going to go back outside to have another cigarette.
Attaboy. But nobody is based in reality. Nobody is based in reality. So what people do is they turn to the next thing they know, which is, hey, what about me? And that's what I'm fucking here for, James. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like it's like I've tapped into this wellspring of success by harnessing people's stupidity, and they don't even know it. That's the great part, is that the right fighters on the left or the right, or the crazies and the MAGAs or the fucking losers on the left that seem to think you know everybody is entitled to everything all the time, no matter what, and fuck you if you don't agree. That kind of person. Yeah, it's like it's like Christmas every day when you actually just point out fact. What are you doing right now? What are you doing? Are you starting your barbecue?
Standing on my deck. No, that's where I keep my smokable things like marijuana and cigarettes.
Oh, we never finished the list, by the way, of things that drugs James DiFiore's done. We got to heroin, and you went on a fucking 5-minute tirade about how great angel dust is or something like that.
No, that wasn't that. Oh, wait, who is that guy, though?
I don't know.
Who's that? Gacy?
Gracie? Hoist Gracie?
No.
Hoist Gracie saved your life?
No, Mohawk UFC fighter. I'm telling you. Just where's your producer, man?
What other,
Sean?
Have you done mescaline? Yes or no?
Chuck Liddell. It was Chuck Liddell that saved my life.
Chuck Liddell saved your life? That's awesome.
Yes.
He is famous.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Mescaline.
If I did, I didn't know it.
PCP.
No.
Jenkum. Butt hash. No. Look it up.
I don't think so.
Look it up later. You've never done that?
Is that like a Dirty Sanchez trick?
No. It's where you take a big dump in a jar and then you put it in the dirt for a couple of days and then you open it up and you smell it and you get real high. It's probably not great for you. It's like really shitty markers.
That's like as random as nutmeg seeds. You know anyone that's done nutmeg seeds?
I don't even know what the fuck that
someone
is.
that thought they were nutmeg seeds. Like they're nutmeg seeds. That's all they are.
Yeah. What do you do with them? Do you smoke them? What do you do? Do you eat them?
Apparently, if you take like 10 of them, you're gonna die, or you're gonna feel like you're gonna die for like 3 days.
That's the stupidest thing in the world. Have you? I've
never done.
Obviously, done shrooms. Have you done crocodile?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, you haven't done it then. Acid?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you want to hear?
Yes.
So this,
I've done acid, Dean.
You want to hear an
acid? Sure.
Listen.
Let's take a break from saving the world with common sense for an acid story.
Listen.
Folks,
this
you too can be really brilliant and insightful if you do acid and psilocybin. Go ahead.
There's no cause and effect. I'm not saying that. I'm not making that claim.
I do. I'm making the claim for you, for fuck's sakes. You're not here.
However,
and by the way, James has lost like 80 pounds. He looks like a greyhound. He's all cock and ribs. And he is taken, ladies, but he's lost so much weight and he feels the best he's ever felt. And life is as good as it's ever been because he does drugs.
Yes, it's only because of the copious amounts of narcotics I consume.
Do you have a like a Hunter S. Thompson sort of like daily regimen when it comes to drugs? Get up.
No, not a daily regimen, but I respect the game. Like I understand. I know that if I was single, that I'd consume a lot more drugs than I do now. But I have kids, right? Like.
Do you wait?
Being honest,
Yeah,
but
I
listen,
love it.
but hold on. So I did acid when they were microdots in the early 90s, right? Like I was a teenage. Microdots are just a different form of acid. There's blotters and there's microdots, and blotters are supposed to be dipped in it, and microdots are supposed to be made with it.
How big are they?
And they're really small. They're like
That's the name.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe how small they are. They're smaller than like a thumbtack head, like a lot. You
Okay.
know, like they're the size of almost like four poppy seeds,
Put them under
basically.
your tongue.
You put it, yeah, you put it on your tongue and you trip. And we thought it was the greatest thing ever at the time. And then a person that I know in Manhattan twice a year gets together with these Stanford professors. One is a chemist. You can guess what he brings to the party. And one is a
Drugs.
philosopher. And there's like 7 or 8 of them. And this person that I know happens to be one of them that goes. She's an inventor. And so I was chatting with her and she was, she sent me some. So she sent me 3 hits in total, right? And
Yeah.
she's so funny because she put like dear Stan, right? Like, you know, love Jennifer, and her name's not Jennifer, right? And here's a gift card, and it wasn't activated, and it was
Yeah.
taped to the back of the gift card that was taped to a card for Stan's birthday, right? Anyways,
Sure.
so I got it, and the day that I got it, my wife and my kids happened to be going visiting family for 2 days, and I had to work like 2 days later, so I stayed home. And it came in the mail, and I was like, "Yes," right? So as soon as I came in, I cut it in half. So I took a hit and a half, and I put it under my tongue, and I opened my laptop, and right away she messaged me like, "Did it come yet?" I'm like, "Well, funny you should ask." And she's like, "Okay, before you do anything, make sure you only take a half because it's really fucking strong this year." And I was like, "Oh shit." So, dude, it was like I had never done LSD in my life. Like I was flicking my countertop and watching sparks fly, and then trying to for like an hour trying to figure out the math that would make my brain hallucinate sparks flying at that speed based on how hard I flicked. And I thought I was doing this for hours, and it was like 20 minutes, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, right? Like
Hey, so
it was crazy. Yeah.
so can I ask you a question? Because I've never done acid, never done shrooms, but is there
Really?
like is there a reset that I hear about this thing with people that microdose responsibly, obviously, but is there this kind of like nervous system reset or sympathetic system reset with psychedelics like mushrooms, in certain kinds of mushrooms or certain types of LSD? Because a friend of mine said he does acid once a month, and he said it's crazy. He's on this like weird fucking joyous high for a few days after, that he really loves, and it really opens him up. And there's introspection that he does that he can't do if he's not on a psychedelic.
Well, I don't know. At the risk of sounding like, a hippie or something, it strips you of your ego, and it allows you to sort of take a look and sort of take an inventory of what's going on in your life without the added like emotional reaction to it or the victimizing or the self-victimizing of it or anything. And
Right.
it maybe even allows you to understand, say you have a conflict with like your partner or a friend or a business partner or something like that. It can really adjust your lens to the point where whatever feud that you may have been having, you can then handle it in a different way because you haven't attached your ego to it anymore. For
Sure.
that moment in time, you've detached it. And then you can recall what it feels like to have that ego detached maybe a week later when you're not high or anything like that. But you're able to carry some of the benefits with you, I think. And that
Is there a
I
third
think it.
person perspective to that you get from psychedelics that you don't get from cannabis? Because I'm starting to understand the premise of being able to look at yourself from outside yourself. And what you're sort of describing is, and that's hard to do because you have to look at it like it's data. Do you know what I mean? It's almost matrixy when you think about it. But is there something to that?
Well, there is because, well, you have to, you make a choice, I guess, right? Like there's different ways. If you internalize the things that you're feeling, and if you're by yourself, like there's certainly a therapeutic benefit to taking, certain mind altering substances like this. And this isn't new news, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is something that they've been, the whole MK Ultra program that where they experimented with LSD on subjects, morphed into a therapeutic division of the military when they wanted to treat soldiers with PTSD and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they haven't known about the therapeutic benefits for stuff like this for a long time, but it's nothing like marijuana and THC. It's not the same thing at all.
No.
You know, no.
No, but as someone, pardon me, as someone who uses it in a medicinal capacity, I have had those moments where I have been able to look at an issue in my life from a different perspective because of the state that I'm in. You know, and I think it comes with a million other things too, right? Like it, you know, when people look for happiness, or when they are trying to relieve a malady, whether it's mental, usually mental, they've got a bunch of different things they need to do, and it's not like doing a hit of acid is going to relieve your anxiety, right? It's not. It's part of the course of treatment for a lot of different people. But so is counseling, and so is addiction therapy, and so is a bunch of different stuff that people do. And so for as someone who uses it to in a responsible way, in a creative way, because it enables you to be honest and be authentic, which is one of the things you get in this interview, which is a grown ass fucking guy who's got kids and a wife, and he's at home, he's having a beer, and he's talking cogently about, is that a word? Am I using the right word? Cogently?
Just roll with it, man. Just keep going.
A guy who makes a ton of sense about responsible drug use for a medicinal reason. And that's tough. That's tough to do. No one wants to share, especially if you've got a platform, right? If you've got, which you do, blackballmedia.ca. James DiFiore is our guest, by the way. He's one of the greatest writers on the planet. I fucking love the guy. And you do, which is really difficult. Again, is it been part of your journey, or has it been the whole thing? Do you owe your happiness and slim build to drugs, or has it been a variety of things, James?
No idea. I don't even know, because I said to my wife once that I had to figure out an artful way of saying this. That life is so bizarre that our kids exist with the identities that they have because I had the right amount of orgasms before the orgasms that conceived my kids. So, in other words, if I had one more orgasm and then conceived my son wouldn't be the same person that's there, because some other sperm would have won some other fucking race in some other batch of semen. Right?
Were you high? Were you high when you're thinking about this stuff?
No.
Yes, you were. You had to be. No one thinks about that fucking sober. There's no way.
But it's true, correct?
Like, I'm not saying it's not true, but that's a deep dive into conception.
It doesn't matter. It's true. So it's data, right? So,
okay.
So in other words, to try to figure out, like, if one thing made you happier in life or sadder, or put you on this path or that path, it's impossible. I think it's almost impossible to say.
Can someone make someone do something?
Yeah.
Can someone make someone? Well, wait. Can you make someone feel something?
Yeah, I think you can. But it's fish in a barrel these days, isn't it? You can make anyone feel angry, it seems like.
No, you can't. That's the thing.
Really?
Yeah, that's impossible. It is fucking impossible. That's what I keep.
It doesn't mean that it has to be logical, but you don't think I could type something right now on Twitter that would cause someone else to have an emotional reaction of anger?
Oh, no. You're a ninja like me, for sure. I get it. I mean, we use it, but I've arrived at the conclusion that it's virtually impossible to make me angry. Like, in that capacity, there is no way I should be capable. I am. You are. Lots of people are. Anybody is. Fuck, now the world we live in, anybody is capable of absolutely destroying someone's day with a tweet or a comment.
I've been destroyed, though. I've been destroyed. Not destroyed like in the sense that I had my career blown up and everything, but I've spent a day angry because of social media stuff. But that was when Chuck D called me a racist. And so
you love Chuck D too.
I was heartbroken because I had that guy's picture on my wall when I was like 15 years old, and I had his T-shirt on my chest when I was going to high school.
Why did he call you racist?
Because I suggested that the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto should resign for saying that white people were subhuman.
Mm.
She then won a leadership award by the city of Toronto, so it all worked out for her. But at the time, Chuck D was like, 500 years of white supremacy has spawned this piece. I was like, oh my God.
And all you were trying to say. And then did you question yourself?
No, I wrote a follow-up piece where I said, criticizing Black Lives Matter made me a public enemy, but I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think if they just change the name to something else, because you're fucked if you say that you don't like Black Lives Matter, right? Because that's like saying, and of course you're stupid if you don't. And so my answer to everybody,
wait, you're stupid if you don't what?
If you don't think Black Lives Matter.
Oh, well, see, the point, the whole reason that is a big mindfuck is because
there's an organization called Black Lives Matter.
Well, I agree with the phrase.
How can't you? That's my point.
Right, of course. But I don't agree with the organization. It's a political organization. I don't have to agree with the organization in order to agree with the phrase.
No, but people, and this is the thing, people are too stupid to separate the two. Like if someone asks me, do you support Black Lives Matter? My answer every single time has been unequivocally, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, mine is I always specify. I'm like, well, I support the phrase, but not the organization. That's just my canned response now.
Yeah, but that's your way of kind of sticking it in there too, isn't it?
No, it's just the truth, because I don't want anyone to think that I support a Marxist organization, because I'm not a Marxist.
Right.
It's the same reason why I don't want to support a libertarian organization. I'm not a libertarian, right? Like I just don't want to do it. So if Black Lives Matter was libertarian, if Black Lives Matter were like, Black Lives Matter, join us now, we're moderates, I'd be like, maybe I will. They're not, so I won't.
Right? Is it are we done? Is that it?
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, it's an hour.
So do you edit all this bullshit that we're saying right at this second out?
No, it's actually live. It's all live right now. It's live.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody.
Why are you sorry? You were terrific. You're terrific. Listen, I love representing all sides of this, and I'm trying to figure this fucking whole thing out. And why I wanted to have you on, James DiFiore from blackballmedia.ca. Why I wanted to have you on is not from a contribution standpoint. For me, I wanted to help educate people and have this conversation, which was, don't get caught up in the bullshit. Don't. I mean, focus on the fucking things that are really important, which are facts.
Well, and if you can I let your audience know something, which is that I have taken a sort of hiatus of late. I only have a couple things that I've published in the last couple months, but then today, because I was a little fed up with reading stories about this teacher who was decapitated in France, and all because he showed these Charlie Hebdo cartoons in class, and none of these outlets had the balls to actually show the cartoons that made these radical people chop a person's head off, is an affront to journalistic ethics and integrity. And I don't understand why we are living in a day and age where we are literally kowtowing to the most theocratic extremists on the planet, people that will decapitate you for drawing a picture. Like, are you fucking kidding? Mm-hmm. So I published today all of the cartoons that this teacher was said to have published in his class that motivated this insane, ridiculous person to chop off his head. So,
how's the reaction been?
Pretty good. I think people are afraid to comment on things like that as well. The best dialogue that I've had today is with a Muslim who expresses frustration at the way that extremists poison the well for him and his religion. And he says, while he thinks the images are in themselves are disrespectful, he understands why I would want to publish them, because he's like, free speech is more important than my religious requirements of somebody else. So he was totally like reasonable. And
but what a nice thing to hear is that someone's ability to speak freely, not hatefully.
No, and he even said, he's like, I think they're disrespectful pictures. He said it, and so he wasn't like trying to shy away from that. And I was like, maybe they are, but I think that it's part of the story now, like, and so it needs to be shown, so that to me takes precedent over a religious doctrine called the Haditha or whatever it is.
If I could jump in here, though,
yes.
I'm just going to bring this up. There was a CNN reporter that we're here on a Zoom call right now, if anybody's wondering, that had a little bit of an issue with muting and turning off his video call. And so just so you know, the left has their issues with what we are doing right now as well, sharing their
Oh, are you talking about Jeffrey Toobin getting caught jerking off on camera? Did you see that? Did you
That's
see
what
that?
I'm
Did you
talking
see?
about.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh fuck the left and the right. I fucking hate them both. I hate the extremists from both sides. Extremists that misrepresent anything or anybody or any group. I hate you all the same. Go fuck yourselves. Hard, deep, with a fork, sideways. Don't care. Fuck you. So let me just say that in perpetuity. But this Jeffrey Toobin guy's a fucking classic when you talk about hypocrisy. I love it. So this guy has written multiple books about OJ, which, you know, OJ fucking killed people. You write books about, you know, it's fucking one of the
Plus,
greatest.
Alan Dershowitz was his teacher.
Alan Dershowitz was this guy's teacher, who's clearly a fucking pedophile. Clearly a fucking pedophile from what we know about all the Epstein stuff. And this Jeffrey Epstein guy sat on CNN for years and years and years, waxing about how terrible the Stormy Daniels business was, talking about how terrible and disgusting Donald Trump was. Fucking Donald Trump's so disgusting. Fuck him. And Jeffrey Toobin, writer, great legal mind, one of the world's foremost legal commentators, Jeffrey Toobin, four-eyed wiener face, is on a Zoom call with every single reporter at the Atlantic, and what they're doing is this political coverage conversation on a Zoom call. And Jeffrey Toobin, man who just cannot stand Donald Trump and how disgusting he is, was jerking off on a mic, on a Zoom, jerking off on camera, jerking off. He was hand-starting the one-eyed yogurt thrower on a Zoom call with the most high-powered legal minds in New York City.
Was there any comment about?
And I don't know if he finished.
What style of grip? Like, was he
an underhander?
Was he Western?
Like, was that like this? Is that like that?
I think it's like that.
I've never done that. I've never done. Oh, that looks more like the reverse Dutch rudder. Almost.
I'm ambidextrous, man. As long as my fingers are somewhere.
But good. I thought to myself, you know, wow, that is yeah, me too. We all are. But that's a new one. Like, who the fuck jerks off in the middle of a Zoom call? And then I started wondering. I can guarantee you, during the pandemic, it's happened a bunch. Like,
what's the psychology though? What do you think the psychology? Do you think it's like, you know what? I'm better than all you writers. Yeah, that's right. I'm better. You know, like,
you mean
Alan Dershowitz was my teacher, and then I insulted him when he took Trump's side. All right.
Like, how would he even get hard in the middle of a fucking work phone call? Is that what you're saying? Because I know I'm hard just talking about it. Like, I know I am fully engorged talking about politics right now. Nothing gets me harder than a work call with a whole bunch of lawyers.
Well, it was clearly an accident, though. So I don't know. I sort of feel for him.
How is it a fucking accident? Dude, even if because he said he didn't think the camera was on. And then everybody's like, well, why does that even fucking matter?
The masturbation obviously wasn't accidental.
The masturbation is not accidental, and no one fucking masturbates while they're on a work meeting phone call. Like, no, but even if there's no cameras, even if you're just on the phone, like even if it's 1980 and you're in some fucking conference call.
But the mistake,
you don't
clearly,
jerk off in the middle of the fucking call, right? Like, right now, can you imagine if you and I are sitting here and I was sitting? No, sometimes you do. No, sometimes you do, James. Can you imagine if I was sitting here jerking off, giving myself the double Dutch?
Do you know how many times I jerked off on your podcast?
Nazis? What?
Do you know how many times I've jerked off on your podcast?
Not as many as I have.
No, none. The answer is 0.
I just love
the change.
You know what it is? It's poetry. Watching these miserable cocksuckers sewer each other, and then one guy gets like, it is poetry to me.
You don't feel sorry for him a little bit?
0. Fuck.
What was his crime again? Like,
he jerked off in the. It's not a who?
No, I'm not talking about the masturbation before that. Like, why do we hate the guy for jerking off? I just want to know.
Oh, I don't hate him for jerking off, and I don't hate him at all. I just love when Schadenfreude happens live. Like, it's like and I don't care who the offending party is. It's like. I totally get why that's funny, because I would say the same thing if he was someone else. You know what I mean? Oh, that's how fucking smart I am.
My battery literally just told me you're about to.
All right. James DiFiore, blackballmedia.ca. Thanks for doing this, brother. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, Dean.
That was fun.
Have a good night, buddy.
Appreciate you.
What do I do?
James DiFiore. What's that? You just hang
up.
The
button says leave.
Yeah,
it says leave.
See ya. I got to do this one. No, not microphone. See you later. You going to hit leave? No? Yeah, you turn. Oh, there we go. That's how you tackle a few hard subjects. You feed a really, really brilliant guy a whole bunch of pot, and you let him go fucking crazy. I love it. I love all sides of those arguments. You might not agree with them. but you can't disagree with fact and data. And that's why we have him on. I can't wait to have him on more. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I know it was a fucking late one tonight, so appreciate you being around. Thanks to our friends at Blue Microphones. Blue Microphones, the #1 broadcast podcast microphone on the planet. They got everything. They got every kind of microphone you can buy. I can get one over here. Look at this. I got an extra. Yosig case. I love these things. If it wasn't for these, we'd still be doing podcasts on a shitty store-bought microphones. You can't do a proper podcast without one of these. Blue Microphones, at Blue Microphones on Twitter. Thanks to OwnersBox, ownersbox.ca. Sorry, ownersbox.com. I'm sorry. I know we're live. There's no going back to redo it, so just say sorry. Ownersbox.com, where I've turned into a fantasy freak. You can too. It's absolutely insane. And honest to God, give yourself something to do during the pandemic, right? You know? That's the thing. That's what you want to do. You want to put more things in your life that make you have fun. And that's what I did with OwnersBox. That's why we're working with them, because it's totally a fucking selfish play. I love it. You can do as many drafts as you want. They'll match a $50 deposit right now if you go and log on. It's totally free of charge to play as well. So it's not like it costs anything. Absolutely free. You can play for real money. You can play for OwnersBox. It doesn't matter. But give yourself something to do. Kyler Murray was a beast yesterday too. So anyway. Ownersbox.com. Sign up today and play fantasy every day, weekly. It's incredible. And thanks to Ed at Ed's Fine Imports. Where's that Gitch? Oh, hang on a second. Don't go anywhere. Sean, sorry. I got to go get some Gitch. Can you whistle or something? Oh, I fucking cranked my knee off the table. Ed's Gitch. He's got red ones. He's got gray ones. Looks like it's blue ones. And he's got black. Let's have a look. They come in a hermetically sealed package, so you know that no one's worn them before. Because sometimes that happens, right? Go to certain discount stores, you get a pack underwear, they just jammed it back in there with a skid mark in them. That doesn't happen at Ed's Fine Imports. Look at that band. That's a tough band. And here's the great part about these. Your bird goes in there. That's what happens. Your bird goes right in there. And it's like, it's got this little inner pouch. Your bag sack right in there, all your stuff. It's like a home. It keeps everything separate. That's the thing. You got to see it, right? You got to see it. If you don't see it, you don't know. It's just soft, and that shit's soft, and it moves with you. Anyway, Gitch from Ed. He's also doing these fucking unbelievable masks, and he can put a bunch of screening on them too. Send them to you. But he's got masks by 7 Downey Street. Look at, you got a kid in your family that wants one of these. Cheap too, $20 maybe max. Lasts forever, machine washable. Get this one. Looks like someone barfed on it. I don't know what it is. 7 Downey Street. $20, machine washable, super sturdy. I have a few of these. It's the one I use, black. And oh yeah, that's mine. Anyway. Thanks to Ed at Ed's Fine Imports. He's got Gitch. He's got these masks, too, and he'll send you a bunch of them, so you don't have to go anywhere. Go to edsfineimports.com. Right now, order them online. It's super easy to do. Use promo code GITCH3. You'll get 4 pairs of Gitch for the price of 3 as well. Gitch, the number 3. Have a great day, everybody. That's it for me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, if you're still watching. Have a great night. Fucking relax. Enjoy it. We'll be back tomorrow with the hockey dummies right here at DeanBlundell.com. Thanks.
You're good, Dean. Talk whenever you want. I'm just playing music.